Welcome, everybody. Wednesday, February 7th. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Let me pull up the chat so I can actually see you guys. Where are you? Hey, hello. There you are. There you are. All right. Well, it's coming. It's not up yet, but it's popping up slowly. Anyway, welcome, folks. I will see your stuff in a second. Then I will get TikTok rolling, and then we will get rolling. There is the chat. Okay, there we go. Hello, all. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hey, Bjorn. All right, let me get TikTok rolling now, too. I always forget about that. I do forget about that you can actually adjust the lighting on TikTok. Kind of surprising. Oops, don't do that. Yeah. Maybe a little brighter. I don't know. I haven't decided. Anyway, TikTok's good enough. It'll survive. Anyway, welcome all. How are you? Let me go live. TikTok. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? I don't know what. Maybe is that Romanian? I don't know what accent that was. Hang on. Mirror your video. Boom. There we go. All right. Hey, y'all. How are we? I had my espresso a little bit earlier tonight, so I'm going to be less flying, awake, but less flying than I normally am, so that's good. Hey, Kayla. Hey, Ryan. Always one of the first, Ryan. Hey, Amanda. Oh, anyway, hello, all. Today, what was I going to say? Nothing I'm going to say. A lot of news today. I had to cut back a little, actually, because there's a lot today. Ukraine, but also obviously U.S. Congress and all that craziness. And there was a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad we should at least mention. So lots of stuff. You know, I'm just going to dive right in. Normally, I sort of wait a few minutes. And now I'm thinking if I do, I want to kind of try, because I worry about on YouTube later whether that stops people and they leave or whatever. So let's just get rolling. So welcome, folks. I'm John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, our nightly show that I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time U.S., so make sure to write that down so you don't forget. Thank you, Ava. And basically, the show is about Ukraine, but it can be about other stuff, too. It's national security, whatever's important in the news. Thank you, LWD. But obviously, a lot of Ukraine, although I will start talking about the U.S. retaliatory strike in the Middle East in Baghdad today. Thank you, Alexander. The U.S. did a drone attack in Baghdad that took out several terrorist leaders, one of which is a senior commander. Thank you, Lori, LWD. Thanks for the gifts, guys. And Marvelous as well. Oh, not Marvelous, LWD. I'm being spacey. Jonathan. Sorry, I'm missing gifts here. Simon. Sorry, a bunch of you guys popped in at the beginning. Thank you. LWD again. Christine. Ava. Oh, my God. There were a bunch of you I missed at the beginning. Oh, and now we got more now. You guys are killing me here. Thank you. Christine, Simon, Arifa, Lori, Becky, Tom, Disco Dave, Bart, Succeed. I feel like I'm I feel like it's romper room when people said it dated me before, but whenever you go through, I see Succeed, I see Bart, I see Disco Dave. Anyway, thank you, Magical. Thank you, Simon. So the U.S. did a drone strike today on a senior commander with one of the Hezbollah groups in the Middle East. Thank you, Christine. There's many of them. And this guy reportedly was in charge of, or one of the people in charge of, the attack on U.S. troops in Jordan 2 weeks ago. Thank you, Patty and Elizabeth, that killed the 3 American soldiers. And U.S. took them out. So very interesting. I just read that there was CENTCOM, which is the U.S. military command in the region, said there was no collateral damage or casualties. Collateral damage is a nice military way of saying civilian damages, among other things, civilian casualties. Thank you, Crazy. So in other words, also, there were no there was nothing nearby on fire either. This was a precision strike against the vehicle these guys were in. Thank you, Pedro. Took out the vehicle, didn't take out anybody else, didn't injure anybody else. So anyway, excellent job by U.S. troops. Apparently, there were Iraqi civilians protesting in the streets in response, saying America is the devil, which if I had $1 for that. Anyway, Ukraine. Let's talk about Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine news. Day 713 today of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Overnight, Russia launched one of its largest attacks on Ukraine in recent memory, targeting Kyiv and other areas, I believe including Kharkiv. There were at least 5 people killed and dozens wounded when some missile parts came down on top of a residential building in Kyiv. So very deadly night. The U.S. Senate voted down the border package today. Democrats have brought it up. Thank you, Martin. Remember, Democrats run the U.S. Senate, Republicans run the U.S. House of Representatives. So each one has the majority in there. And Democrats brought up the border bill anyway. This is the bill that would do really the most conservative, thank you, Murray, and thank you, Tari, as well, the most conservative legislation on the border, the most sort of drastic, draconian in American memory, really. Thank you, Becky. I mean, you'd have to go back to like scary stuff in World War II to get something more conservative than this. Thank you, Becky, again in Jeddah. And of course, Republicans killed it. Donald Trump wants the bill dead. This was the legislation that Ukraine, aid to Israel, also aid for Palestinians is tied up with this bill. And the Republicans killed it because Donald Trump, and I mean, by the way, this is common knowledge. Thank you, Taylor. This is not like partisan conjecture here. Thank you, Life. Donald Trump doesn't want a border bill. He wants chaos at the border. He wants hundreds of thousands, if not, actually, excuse me, several million people coming illegally across our border between now and the election because he wants to use the border as an election issue. He told, and we know this for a fact, he told Republicans to vote against the bill. This is the bill that Republicans created. This is the bill that Republicans negotiated with Democrats and with the president. This is not a Democratic bill. This is a Republican bill. And Trump told them to kill it. They killed it in the Senate. So the bill's dead. The Senate, mind you, again, is the body that literally created the bill. Republicans in the Senate, they vote against their own bill because Trump told them to. It's dead. Aid to Ukraine, again, dead again. Aid to Israel, dead again. What was I going to say here? There was, there's Democrats are now trying anew, thank you, Christine, to bring up just the aid portions of the bill. In other words, dropping the border portions and just bringing up aid for Ukraine, aid for Israel, the international relief work, which includes the Palestinians. And the one little tidbit there, somebody noted, the Afghan Allies Act, the Senate, they're going to bring it up in the Senate. The Afghan Allies Act was dropped from this newest Senate bill where they're going to try to pass aid for Ukraine. And by the way, it's not going to pass aid for Ukraine and Israel. But they dropped the Afghan Allies Act, which was a provision meant to address all the backlog of these poor Afghan men, I'm assuming, it could be women too, actually, Afghans who came to help the U.S. military during the U.S. war there over the last 20 years. And we had promised them, because they were putting their lives at risk, thank you, Macab, by helping our troops as translators, guides, and other things, that if they did this, if they risked their lives working for U.S. troops in Afghanistan, we would give them U.S. citizenship. We'd bring them and their extended families to America. We didn't. We brought some of them. We didn't bring most of them. And this isn't just a Biden thing. This is a Trump thing, too. Nobody cared. Biden didn't care. Trump didn't care. Nobody cared. We screwed these guys. We left Afghanistan. We left most of them, tens of thousands of these people behind. This legislation was meant to at least start to address that, and they took it out. So it's not even in the bill either. And again, this comes to this larger issue of you can't trust my country's word anymore, and this is a bad thing, right? If we screw Ukraine, actually already for Ukraine, this means you can't trust America's word. If America gets into a war to help you, they may get bored after 2 years, or another party, MAGA will come into power and cut you off. America's word defending Europe means nothing. Donald Trump has already said, thank you, Kronos, that he's not going to abide by our NATO treaty obligations if Russia invades. He's just not gonna. He just said, I'm not gonna. In any case, but the same thing with the people from Afghanistan, they risked their lives helping us. And the deal was, if you do that, we'll get you out. We didn't get them out. Why the hell would anybody help U.S. troops in the future? Right? I mean, money, okay, but forget the promise of coming to America, In any case, very annoying. So they're going to vote on this other bill in the Senate. They're going to try to bring it up. It's not going to go anywhere. In the U.S. House, interesting discussions at least. Now, again, House Republicans are the ones that are most, what's the word I'm looking for? I would say obeisant, but most sort of obey Donald Trump the most. I mean, they all obey Donald Trump. But the House Republicans are really MAGA. Thank you, adventurers. Senate Republicans aren't really MAGA, but they're still afraid of Donald Trump. There's a few MAGA people, maybe 10, 20 at most. I'd say not even 20. It's probably like 10 in the Senate Republicans. Thank you, adventurers. But they're terrified of Donald Trump, and they still do his bidding. Now, interestingly, because you guys had asked, somebody asked the other day and said, why is it that Republicans, especially like in the Senate, why do they listen to Trump? Why are they killing their own bill that they negotiated? Thank you. Oh my God, cookies. And Langford, who's conservative senator from Arizona, he spoke on the Senate floor today and told a story of how basically a top conservative commentator threatened to destroy him and said, if you vote for this package and pass any border, any kind of border reform until Trump is president, we'll destroy you. This guy's a conservative Republican from Oklahoma. He's the one who negotiated the deal. I mean, which is why the deal is so tough. Democrats caved, and a conservative Republican negotiated it, and they threatened to destroy him because Donald Trump wants the bill dead, because Donald Trump, and again, this is not partisanship. This is literally the truth. Donald Trump told them to kill, they're complaining about it themselves. Donald Trump told them to kill the bill because he needs lots of illegal people crossing the border between now and the election. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. In any case. So one thing being discussed, thank you, Courtney, from the U.S. House, Politico had an article saying that, there's some discussion on whether Democrats and Republicans could get together in the House of Representatives and pass something. Now, the House is run by MAGA Republicans currently, but several of the Republicans are kind of pissed off because they want to help Ukraine. They actually are old school Republicans who actually believe in freedom and democracy, and they actually don't like dictators like Russia and the Putin and this kind of stuff. And at least several of them are talking, thank you, John, about possibly at least working with Democrats to maybe pass something. I'm not real hopeful, but let's see. Little update on our wonderful buddy Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson is the American political activist who interviewed Vladimir Putin and put out a statement that was full of lies and actually has now been called out on it publicly by a lot of journalists. Carlson was the top Fox News personality host. Thank you, James. Super powerful in Republican circles, would terrify Republican members of Congress. Thanks, Amanda. And was fired from Fox News because he's such a liar that in large part, he cost Fox News $780 million in a lawsuit by a voting machine company called Dominion. And Carlson helped put the lie out there that Dominion's voting machines were corrupted by Democrats and Cesar Chavez, even though he's dead, somehow he did this, and put out the lie that this company's machines were disaster. Anybody who uses them, obviously, right, this kind of thing. And that this is how Trump lost the election. Trump actually won the election, but the voting machines changed the vote. He actually put this crap out there. And they got sued by the voting machine company, and they won because it was a lie. Oh, it's a lie. Not a lie? Fox News had to admit it was a lie. Part of the settlement was Fox News admitting it was a lie. Not a lie. I got news for you. No, we have a troll saying not a lie. Okay, sure. Really crazy. Crazy. So this is the problem people have with Carlson is he's a liar. He's a paid liar. He confessed in emails and text messages that they got during the lawsuit. Not confessed, but it was a confession, so to speak. During the lawsuit, he had repeatedly said in these emails and text messages that Donald Trump didn't win the election, that there wasn't sufficient election fraud to steal the election. It just wasn't that these arguments were all BS. They were all bull. But then, like one of the messages, either that evening or the next evening, he went on TV and presented the lies again that he had admitted privately. They really don't all lie. See, again, I don't know if you're Russian or if you're a partisan here, but they all lie both sides. They really don't. They really don't. This is why you don't have any Democratic news sources that have had to pay a judgment of $1 billion like Republicans have for lying. There is not widespread lying of other news sources. There isn't. The one good thing of America's judicial system is if you lie like that about somebody, you get caught. There's literally nothing you can point to. You can point to conservative and liberal reporters getting things wrong, but it takes a special kind of Fox News, OAN, Newsmax kind of, Tucker Carlson kind of person to find examples of just serial lies. So what does Carlson do? He goes to Russia to interview Putin. He says outright that the reason he's, and again, this should embarrass anybody who supports this stuff. He says he's going because Putin's basically right. Putin's the good guy. Zelensky's the bad guy in the war. And Carlson, the world doesn't know this. And I love the and Carlson's a very good propagandist because rather than, think about this. It's sort of like the election lie too, right? The reason people don't believe that Trump, that the election was stolen. And the reason 61 courts, by the way, 61 courts in America, including Republicans, including the Supreme Court, turned down Donald Trump's election lie. It's because it's a conspiracy. It's not because 61 out of 61 courts said Donald Trump is full of crap on the election stuff, right? It's because it's a conspiracy. So Tucker said, you see, the reason the world thinks Putin is a dictator and he's doing horrible things in Ukraine is because of the Western media. They're all corrupt. And he's going to give Vladimir Putin a chance to tell the real story. Well, I got news for you. And I'm paraphrasing here. But Tucker also has here, I'm going to read you some of his quotes. I may have some of his quotes. I may read them. I do have some of his quotes on Ukraine. The guy, no journalist does that. No journalist goes into a meeting with a world leader who's a dictator, basically. And again, he is a dictator. This isn't a question. You can say you like dictators, but Putin's a dictator. It's not a question. You don't go into that interview and say, he's such a nice man. He's just so misunderstood. I need to do an interview to show the world what a great guy he is. That is just not even biased. So let me read you a little bit about Tucker Carlson's quotes on Ukraine, just to give you a sense of who this guy is, okay? We don't arm Ukraine so we can help the Ukrainians. They are merely unfortunate pawns in all of this. We arm Ukraine so that we can punish Russia for stealing Hillary Clinton's coronation. That one took me a second. Tucker Carlson, this is previous on his show before he got fired for costing Fox News $1 billion. Thank you, Eddie. Tucker claimed that the reason America is helping Ukraine stop the Russian invasion and stop the Russian genocide is because we're trying to punish Russia for stealing the election from Hillary Clinton in 2016, right? And we're mad at them. And therefore, we're going to spend $100 billion on a war that supposedly we don't believe in just because we're mad. Okay, thank you, Louis. He later, listen to what he said about Zelensky. Whatever you think of the war in Ukraine, it is pretty clear Zelensky has no interest in freedom and democracy. He is a dictator. This is after the invasion. He is a dictator. He is a dangerous authoritarian who used $100 billion of U.S. tax dollars to erect a one-party police state in Ukraine. He also said that Zelensky was closer in as the type of human being he is. Zelensky is closer to the Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin than to the U.S. founding father George Washington. Tucker Carlson. This, and again, this is the problem. He's a liar. He's not a journalist. He's an activist, and activists can go interview dictators if they want. But let's not pretend it's some magnanimous thing that we're going to laud them for. But it's worse than that. Tucker Carlson, like Donald Trump, frankly, and a number of people out there, really, on the Republican side, sadly, on the MAGA Republican side, there's something wrong there. There's if you're saying stuff like this about Russia and Ukraine and Zelensky and at one point he said that Putin's much better than Democrats. Democrats hate America. Putin doesn't hate America. We should be friends with Putin before we're friends with Democrats. He's not crazy. There is something, in my view, corrupt about the man. There is like Donald Trump. There's a corruption there. There is something inexplicable going on in their positions with regards to Russia, and it's not clear what it is. It's not clear what's pulling their strings. Something is pulling their strings. It's not clear what the hell it is. Something's pulling their strings. But you get it. I mean, you guys get it, but I bring it up because it's important, because this is going to be a big propaganda coup for Putin. Carlson is going to totally put out Putin's point. He totally agrees with Putin. Carlson, by the way, those of you, especially in Europe, will appreciate this. Tucker Carlson is probably America's biggest booster, his biggest fan of Viktor Orban in Hungary and what Orban has done. Thank you, Dwayne. And what Orban has done in Hungary. Carlson has been promoting Orban for years, promoting what Orban's been doing there. I mean, huge deal there as far as what he believes in all of this. Oops, sorry, adjusting a little bit here for YouTube. Oops, sorry. This is hard. So I'm trying to adjust YouTube again. Not easy to adjust this stuff. Good enough. Any case, you get it. All right, let me move on here. The Kharkiv Regional Police reported that 2 out of 5 missiles which Russia fired at Kharkiv today were manufactured by North Korea. Interesting. Ukraine will sign the first contracts for the mass production of attack drones, similar to the Russian Lancet drones, in the coming weeks. That's good. Sweden's prosecution authority announced today, we talked about this yesterday, but there's finally been a conclusion, that Sweden announced today that they're not going to continue the investigation of the Nord Stream pipeline explosion. Remember the two, actually, it's 2 pipelines in name, but actually 4 pipes, the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, and that were blown up by somebody at the start of the war. Thank you, Arifa. And the Swedes were investigating. Could have been Ukraine. We don't really know. We thought Russia. Could still be Russia, but could be Ukraine too. We don't know. I think it's pretty funny if it's Ukraine, to be honest. But the Swedes came out and said today that they're not. You're welcome, Sandra. Thank you for saying thank you. The Swedes came out and said today that they're no longer going to investigate because they don't have jurisdiction. I think they were looking at it to see if there was a Swedish angle. Were there any Swedish citizens, Swedish companies? Zero Swedish connection. So they now have no authority to investigate, so they're no longer investigating. Actually, that's a point I didn't say too. Christopher Brenton just brought up Ukraine killing a foreign journalist. Ukraine is not killing foreign journalists, but you know who is? Russia's killing journalists. Russia has a long history. Thank you, Eddie. I'm glad you brought that up. By the way, mods, feel free to ban him because he's a troll. But Russia has a long history of killing journalists, attacking them, throwing them in jail. Right now, there's 2 American, thank you, who's that? Thank you, Christine. There's 2 American journalists in jail in Russia right now. Their crime is literally being journalists. That's it. There's no crime. They grabbed Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter. They grabbed a woman who's working for Radio Free Europe. They're literally in prison because they're American journalists. It's the only reason they're in prison. You can't do that in America. You can't do that in Ukraine. You can't do that really in any civilized country other than Russia. In Russia, they've got a law that throws you in prison for 15 years if you simply criticize the military. And criticizing the military in Russia, thank you, Anastasia, or we say Anastasia in Greek. I don't know what, depending where you're from. Sean as well. Thank you, Louis. Russia, it is a joke. It is a joke to talk about. I mean, that's why, thank you, Jane. That's why, I kind of laugh because, again, the Russian trolls go, like Tucker Carlson's a Russian troll. Glenn Greenwald is too. Like to talk about, how bad Ukraine is. My God, Ukraine, the corruption index just came out. Thank you, Eva. The new corruption index came out. Ukraine was listed like 100 out of 104, I think, out of 180 countries in terms of 180 being the most corrupt. So about halfway, room for improvement. Russia was like at 140. They were like twice as far away. Russia was more corrupt since last year. Ukraine, less corrupt since last year. Thank you, Christine. But if folks want to talk about, if the trolls want to talk about the treatment of journalists, Julian Assange, that's another one. That's another one. By the way, that person should go too. Julian Assange isn't a journalist. Julian Assange is an activist. Julian Assange is this crazy guy with WikiLeaks who was involved with the Russians in throwing the Russian attack on the 2016 election that got Trump elected. Julian Assange had said previously he wanted to get Trump elected. He wanted Hillary Clinton to lose. He was pissed at Hillary Clinton for something, I don't remember what, and he wanted Hillary to lose. Julian Assange literally is responsible, folks, for getting Donald Trump elected in 2016, for making him exist in this world, is Julian Assange. So, again, the Russian trolls have no examples they can bring up. Tucker Carlson, who's a paid liar, who's an admitted liar, who cost Fox News $780 million because of his lies, right? I mean, again, we're never gonna convince the trolls because they're not. They're Russian. There's a lot of fake people who come on to talk about this stuff. You know, they're Russians and they're fake anyway. They're paid to come and just sow dissent. But you know, it's again, I think a lot of, especially I will say this too, by the way, on Twitter, TikTok, a lot of these guys are fake that are here today. Because you notice the same thing on TikTok. Oh my God, this is interesting too. The fact that the Russians clearly turned on their troll farms, who are basically the people they pay to go out there and cause trouble, they turned them on this issue. Like you can see today, we've got a couple hundred more people than normal because of this, because of clearly the Russian troll farms. Same thing with my TikTok videos about Carlson. It's all Russian trolls. And the best part is because they're all trying to pretend they're Americans and none of them speak English correctly, which I love. Thank you, Scott. And I'm fine with people not speaking English correctly, but it's absolutely fabulous. Oh, what did Tucker lie about? Okay, we're going to do this one more time. Feel free to Google the lawsuit that Fox News lost for $780 million. It includes copies of Tucker's text messages and or emails admitting that he was lying about Trump about Trump winning the election. And he was lying about all the election fraud stuff, that he admitted he knew it was all BS. It wasn't true, but he still on his show that evening went and presented it again. That's what Tucker, and the other thing I found today, which was really brilliant. Oh, actually, if I still have it, I'm going to read this just because I find the Tucker stuff. Oh, listen to this. Thank you for bringing it up again, troll, so I can bring this up. Listen to this. Tucker Carlson was sued for defamation by somebody. Thank you, Tiger Pug. I was going to call you Tiger Puss. Tiger Pug. Tucker Carlson, when he was at Fox, was sued by somebody for defamation. And the Fox News lawyers say, you can't sue him for defamation because nobody believes him, right? Part of the element of defamation is causing damage to your reputation. And the Fox News lawyers said, he didn't cause any damage to your reputation because nobody believes him. Nobody takes him seriously. So they know he's lying. Well, the judge puts the final opinion and actually sides with Tucker because she accepted what the Fox News lawyers said, that Tucker is a liar. Listen to this. This is from the judge's opinion, siding with, and this is a Trump judge, by the way. This is a Donald Trump judge, Trump-appointed judge. U.S. District Judge Mary Kay, Viscosil. I may pronounce it wrong. Trump judge. The general tenor of Tucker Carlson's show should inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. Oh, that non-literal commentary. It's a way for saying lies. She wrote, Fox News persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statements he makes. There's more. I'm going to go a second. Fox News literally argued that you can't sue us for defamation because nobody watches Tucker Carlson's show and doesn't think this guy's a liar. And the judge said, you're right. There's more. Listen to this. Viscosil, an appointment of Donald Trump, adds, whether the court frames Mr. Carlson's statements as exaggeration, non-literal commentary, in other words, not literal, like I'm saying it, but I don't really mean it, non-literal commentary, or simply bloviating for his audience, the conclusion remains the same. The statements are not actionable, meaning the statements aren't actionable because the audience knows you're not telling the truth. I mean, my God. Yes, satire. He's Jonathan Swift. I mean, I love it, but again, the problem is we live in a country now, thank you, Marcin, where one political party, sadly, is run by people who don't believe in the truth anymore. There is nothing there are some sane people in that party who have left. Thank you, adventurers. There are certainly sane people in the middle. Thank you, Liv. But overall, there's no way to present facts like this and convince them. You can't. They don't want to be convinced. This is the nature of a cult. Where, thank you, Marcin. In a way, it's kind of like religion too, in a way, but it's of a cult where they don't want to know the truth. They want to know their truth. It kind of reminds me of that woman from Harvard that had to resign when she was talking about my truth. And it was like, no, not your truth. The truth would be a better, thing to talk about. But they don't want somebody to tell them the truth. They want somebody to tell them lies that make them feel better. And Donald Trump lies to them really nicely. Thank you, adventurers. It's really sad. And Tucker Carlson lies to them. Tucker Carlson literally admitted. He also did an interview with Dave Rubin and admitted, yeah, I lie sometimes on my show. I wish I didn't. It's probably not a really good idea, but I do. When I get cornered, I lie. And I was like, who does? I told you, I read that one to you guys last night. Like, who does that? Could you imagine? Seriously, like, I tend not to lie, like to you guys especially, but I don't lie in general to people. I tell a lie, not on this show. I tell a lie like to a neighbor or my family if it's a white lie that's really important for, to be a nice citizen kind of thing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Maui. I'm never going to pronounce Maui Wowie, maybe. I'm not going to get your name right. Thank you. But to admit, Tucker admits that on his show, he lies. When I get into a corner, I lie. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't, but I do. What are you, 12? Right? You get it. You get it. In any case, so big surprise. Another MAGA Republican is siding with Putin for mysterious reasons, and big surprise. Thank God they weren't around during. They were around during World War II, but thank God they didn't have a social media and their own news station to pull them together. What else we got here? Turkish drone manufacturer Bayraktar, or I should say the company is Baykar. Baykar is the manufacturer. Bayraktar is that big drone they make. Is begun construction of a factory near Kyiv in Ukraine. The plant aims to employ around 500 people. Russian authorities are reportedly paying Iran $4.5 billion a year to import the Shahed drones used in Ukraine. There was a hack I mentioned yesterday that Institute for the Study of War got their hands on and detailed some of the breakdown. Just to give you a little bit here. The leaked documents suggest that Russia pays $193,000. It's more or less the same in euros. $193,000 per Shahed 136 drone in batches of 6,000 drones, which would total about $1.1 billion for all 6,000. Another type of Shahed, a 238 model, reportedly costs about $900,000 per drone. And Russia reportedly plans to purchase 2,300 per year for just under $2 billion. It also details how Moscow reportedly pays another $1.4 million per unit of another type of drone and plans to purchase 677 of them. UN's nuclear watchdog went to Zaporizhia, the nuclear plant again, that the Russians control in southern Ukraine, and said that there is enough cooling water at the moment to keep things safe, so that was good news. Do keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube. I appreciate it. What else we got here? The Wagner Group. So you guys always ask about the Wagner Group, so it's worth mentioning. I don't think they really exist anymore, to be honest. Thank you, Irene. Oh boy. Svetoslav? I don't see your full name here, though. It's not showing me your full name. I saw it at the... Oh, there it is. Svetoslav. Thank you, Svetoslav. Appreciate it. I've never heard that name before. Svetoslav. Very interesting. Thank you, Christine and Nick. Lots of gifts coming in. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. The Wagner Group has pretty much been subsumed into the Russian military. The new recruits are now working as part of a volunteer corps of Russia's National Guard called I always have a hard time pronouncing this, Rosgvardia, because it's ROSGV, which in English we wouldn't do that. So it's like Rosgvardia, but saying it as one word, Rosgvardia, is not easy. A poll of Russians, interesting new poll of Russians on the war. the Rosgardia, but it's Gvardia, I believe. So it's kind of the GV that's hard to say. A new poll of Russians by Levada Center, which is about as credible as you can get for Russian pollsters, shows that 77% of Russians support the war in Ukraine. Only 16% say they were opposed to the war. The figures have stayed really stable as time goes on. Levada says this is pretty much where it was previously. It's rare for there too. Okay, Sviatoslav. I've never heard of it before. Yeah, interesting. Exactly, it's the GV. That's what makes it hard in English. Rosgvardia. I feel like a Dracula when I have to say it like that. The poll of Russians. 66% of respondents believe that Russia is paying too high a... Wait a minute. Oh, 60... This is interesting. So 77% support the war. 66% believe that Russia is paying too high of a price for participating in the war, but it's down from 82% who felt that before. So significantly fewer Russians think they're paying too high a price. What's interesting is 77% support the war, but 66% say we're staying too high of a price for the war. You know what I mean? Those seem to be contradictory. And only 31% of those polled say that the Russian citizens, bore any moral responsibility for civilian deaths and destruction in Ukraine. And this is why, yet again, I point out that, thank you, TISM Gamer and Nick. This is why I point out repeatedly that the Russian people are not innocent in all of this by any means. Finally, there was a Reuters piece. I tried to cut it down a little bit. A Reuters piece about the Russian economy saying things are not as happy as it looks. Russian economic growth is doing very well. Something, I forget, is it 3.6? Do I have it here? I had it earlier. I took it out. Maybe 3.6%. But the economy is doing well because of all the defense spending. Russia is spending an insane amount of money on defense now compared to its budget overall. A lot less than we spend, but compared to its budget overall. And it's basically pumping money left and right in the economy. Well, that makes the economy grow, but it also makes inflation grow. Well, another big problem, which Russian economists, this was a larger story by Reuters, but what Russian economists are saying is that this is economic growth that doesn't do anything, that it doesn't benefit the Russian economy to make tanks, right? The workers at that plant get paid. The guy who runs the factory makes a lot of money. Thank you, Liv. But the Russian economy overall, it's not really an investment in the Russian economy or Russia to make tanks, right? And that all of this military growth is creating basically fake growth that's not going to last. The other big issue they bring up is that the Russian economy, they think, is overheating. Russian economists, they fear that basically the Russians are Putin's pushing the economy so hard to put out the defense output. Thank you, Maria. That I'm not quite. The only thing is I'm not sure is what happens next. The article, what I would have asked was, okay, you say the economy overheats. What does that mean? Pushing the economy, they compared it to a car engine. That if you push a car to go too fast, faster than the engine can handle. They didn't explain what happens next. Like literally what happens if you push the economy farther than it can handle. What does that mean? So I don't know. I mean, we know inflation's a problem, but that's because you're pumping all the money in. But what happens to an economy? If any of you are economists, what happens to an economy when you push it so much farther than it can go, than it's supposed to go? I mean, inflation we know. But a crash, what does that mean, a crash? But literally, what does that mean? You know what I mean? That because you're making more things than you have the capacity for, although you obviously have the capacity. Yeah, but don't use words like implode or collapse. That doesn't mean anything. I'm saying quite literally what happens to the economy. Economies don't actually collapse. They don't actually overheat. It's not like you put a temperature in them, right? So literally what happens is what I'm saying. Do factories run out of workers? Do factories run out of resources? Do resources become too expensive? That's what I'm saying. Economically, what are the actual details of what happens to the economy if it's running too hot? That's my question. Okay, some of you are throwing out stuff now. I was looking for the concrete stuff because collapse doesn't mean anything. If you're an economist, you know what collapse means. Everyone else goes, what do you mean? What does an economy collapsing mean? Recession, but probably less of capital. faster you go, the faster you run out of fuel. Yeah, but is that's an engine, not an economy. That's what I'm wondering. You run out of money for the government. That's interesting. Aflac. Okay, was there an Aflac? I wasn't even looking. Sorry. Oops. Oh, I don't see any Aflacs. I see Richard and Bart with the heart. Bart with the heart adventurers. Anyway, I'm just intrigued because the Reuters reporter I thought did a bad job there, because the next question would be literally what happens next. Don't say it's like a car engine. Well, but it's not a car engine. We know car engines seize when they go too fast, right? Like literally what happens next to an actual economy. High unemployment, Panos is saying. Interesting. Okay. Well, wages are already being a problem too. They're saying the Russian economy, inflation has been very high. It's down. It was at like 11%. Now it's down to 7% or so. But wages are growing a lot. Salaries are growing a lot less than inflation, which is bad. Pensions are not keeping up with inflation either, which is bad. Thank you, Squirrely. So very interesting on multiple levels. All right, that's it for the news. Let's talk. What do we got, guys? Any of this you want to talk about? Tucker, the Ukraine, my opinion on the UN. Don't go there, Yael. I'm gonna have the mods block you for that one. Don't go there. But yeah, tell me your thoughts on the Tucker stuff. The Tucker stuff, it bothers me because he's very influential, and he has decided to defend the cause of evil. He's decided that he's going to defend America's enemy at the expense of America. He always likes to wrap it up as if he's doing it for America. He's not doing it for America. I think he possibly has a fascist dream of America that he wants. That might be it. I mean, if he's doing it for America, then it's because he wants us to be a fascist state. That's why he talks about Orban in Hungary being the model for a government that he'd like, and America should copy them. Orban in Hungary is as bad as you get. He's just this shy of a dictator. Putin is a dictator. He's the other guy Tucker Carlson loves and defends. Now, it's possible that this stuff is just corruption. I mean, either Tucker wants America to be a dictatorship like these guys have, or he's just corrupt like Trump, where there's literally some other reason he's doing this for somebody, for something, who knows, right? But we don't know. But it's dangerous as hell. This is worse than Limbaugh because Rush Limbaugh was powerful. Tucker is like the most powerful. He was the most powerful guy on Fox News. And I think even more effective than Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, who's another American one. Yeah, but Biden isn't. I mean, I'm sorry, Roger. That's just stupid. Again, this isn't about Republicans or Democrats. There's lots of Republicans who aren't corrupt. Nikki Haley isn't corrupt. Donald Trump is. Tucker Carlson certainly is. There are Republican journalists who aren't corrupt. Mike Wallace, he's great. He's a Republican. We know he's a Republican. He's normal. He's an actual journalist. He would not go and get on his knees in front of a dictator and say, "You're so misunderstood." Thank you, Svetoslav. I'm going to have the hardest time with you. Every time I see your name, I'm going, "Oh, it's him again." Thank you for the gift. I don't think Nikki Haley's corrupt. Not at all. No, that's what I'm saying. Somebody isn't corrupt just because you don't like them. That's not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. Corruption is corruption. Biden isn't corrupt because you don't like Biden. Even better, because you were told not to like Biden's son. That doesn't make Biden corrupt. And it doesn't make Nikki Haley corrupt because she's a Republican. Donald Trump is corrupt. I was listening about this the other day, too, by the way. I was thinking yesterday, somebody was writing about this, and I totally forgot about it. Remember, actually, Crew just did a study. Remember how Donald Trump used to make everybody stay at his hotel? He bought the hotel in Washington near the White House, and he used to make everybody stay at the hotel to give him money. And all the foreign diplomats would stay at the hotel to literally put foreign government money into Donald Trump's pocket. Well, the Trump people claimed, oh, that's not true. They're doing it because it's convenient. Well, there's another hotel in that location now. Nobody stays there anymore. Nobody stays there anymore to come to Washington to visit the White House or anything else. They weren't staying. Imagine, that's what I'm saying. Like, imagine any other politician in America being president and literally making people stay at his foreign government, stay at his hotel to put money in his pocket. He would travel and he'd make the Secret Service stay in his hotel so that his hotel would bill the Secret Service. And they would bill them at like 2 and 3 times the normal rate for the hotel. I mean, the corruption is insane. Nikki Haley doesn't do stuff like that. All Republicans are not corrupt. Donald Trump is corrupt. And you don't get to say someone's corrupt just because they're from the other political party. That's not how it works. That's, again, how it works if you want the country to really fall apart. But that's not how it works. So that's why I talk about this stuff. I talked about the foreign aid stuff earlier. Republicans in the Senate killed because somebody was asking about foreign aid today, Rumanuk. Republicans in the Senate killed the aid package that would have addressed the U.S. border. It would have given money for Ukraine, money for Israel. And the Republicans killed it because Donald Trump told them to kill it. So, Donald Trump doesn't want, he wants the border crisis literally, he wants the border crisis to continue until the election so that he's got an issue to run on. So he killed it. And now there's not going to be any money for Ukraine. There may not be any money for Israel either, which is going to be fascinating. Thank you, Monica. But there's no money for Ukraine coming anytime soon at all. Thank you, TMK. No, it's terrible. The Republicans this is where the Tucker Carlson thing comes in. The Republicans are literally siding with America's enemy. Russia is our historic enemy. Russia is our enemy today. They are siding with our enemy. They are siding with Vladimir Putin, a former KGB colonel who is a dictator, against a democracy in Europe that is putting all of our lives at risk because we're at risk of a world war if we lose this war in Ukraine, as far as what it's going to do to embolden Putin. And frankly, embolden the Chinese as well. Because the Chinese are watching this and thinking, you know what? We can pull this off in Taiwan too. We are looking at more war. We are not, because, and again, the MAGA Republicans have literally become far left communist peacenik types. Thank you, Kat. Can't there just be peace? No, there can't just be peace. That's not the way the world works. You don't get peace by saying, oh, you're trying to go to war with me. I guess I'll just lay back and go, okay, stop. That's not the way it works. That is like far left liberal crap. And now it's the mainstream of the Republican Party. Blows my mind that the Republican Party is literally a bunch of left-wing socialist types, tree huggers at this point. I mean, trees, I like trees, but it's a metaphor. I didn't think it. Tula Kiwi said, I never thought I'd see the day. I never did either. Again, thank you, Marston. It does show you the corruption of men. And I've talked about this before. As an American, we looked at Europe, and no offense, love Europe, been there a lot, but we looked at Europe and thought, what a screwed up place, the history, and no wonder World War II happened. It was you guys. You know what I mean? You always have those wars. You like those crazy fascist leaders in Spain, and hell, Greece had them too. Greece had a dictatorship, and Italy, and right. In Germany, and you all just and the in France. My God, Le Pen from the 1980s on, right? Like you've always had that crazy fascism thing in Europe. And then communism too. We don't do that in America. Guess what? We do. We're just as screwed up. That basically it's not America. It's people. It's mankind, people, human beings. Sadly, want to be led by a strong man. And it is a man, not a woman. They want to be led by a strong man. That's what it is. They want to be lied to. They want to be coddled. They want an enemy. They want to be told who the enemy is, and they want to watch you destroy the enemy. But it is literal fascism. And they like it and they want it. And they're willing to believe any freaking lie. And sadly, the MAGA Republicans showed us this. Democrats could go there too. They're not there. They're trying. Democrats are trying, but they're not there yet. The crazy people don't run the Democrats. By the way, the reason that a lot of Democrats don't like Biden is because he's not one of those people. He's not one of the crazy people. He's in the middle, or, he's old, which again, he is old. But if that's the worst thing you could say, he's doing pretty well. It's just, it's just very sad. Loki, what did Loki say? Oh, the UN isn't going to hold UNRWA responsible for anything. No, the United Nations won't. Neil, exactly. But Neil, that's cute. Yeah, that's funny. No, I think, look, the United Nations finds the United Nations Relief Agency that works on Palestine, for the Palestinians, finds them embarrassing. Yes, but they're never going to fix it. They don't fix anything. And if they fix it, the Arab donors aren't going to donate. I guarantee you, the United Nations is always worried about its donors. Thank you, Angel Wings. Now, the U.S. is the big donor to UNRWA, however you pronounce it. So you never know. Thank you, Ruben. You never know. RFK, total lunatic. Total lunatic. I mean, the fact that the guy is against all vaccines ought to tell you something. He literally said, and he got called on this on CNN recently. But he's another one who, he's a liar, guys. He gets called out on stuff he says, and he just denies it. And he denies it very angrily, and then they pull up the tape. He's on CNN, and he does this all the time. And I mean, at least if he's going to be crazy, hey, knock yourself out. You want to be crazy? You want to get millions of people killed by not taking vaccines? They should, knock yourself out, crazy murderer guy. But he gets called out on it on CNN, and they ask him, and she goes, you said there isn't a single vaccine that is proven safe or effective. I never said that. I never know. And she goes, okay, play the tape. I kid you not, though. He starts whining, and she literally goes, okay, play the tape. That's all she said. The tape rolls this summer. There isn't a single vaccine that has been proven safe and a single vaccine that's been proven effective. And he sits there and looks at the camera and is like, oh. And Chuck, this makes you a troll as well. That's what I'm saying. You're either a Russian or you're part of the MAGA posse. Is CNN to be trusted? Okay, maybe you're not. I shouldn't say that. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're being legitimate, okay? No, bring him back, mods. That might have been too fast. Bring him back. That, because he said, is CNN to be trusted? At least he put it as a question, which makes me think maybe. Maybe. Because you shouldn't be asking me that question. When CNN is showing a video, when CNN is showing him a video of RFK himself speaking, you shouldn't be asking the question, is CNN to be trusted? Think about it. I mean, just think about what you're saying. You know what I mean? They're literally showing him his own video. Why would you even ask? I mean, did he say I didn't say it? No, once he saw the video. Obviously, it's real if CNN's showing him the video and he's sitting right there looking at it and doesn't say, it could be AI. What, it could be AI and he just didn't realize that he didn't say it 6 months ago? You really think that's a possibility? RFK didn't say that's fake. He said, well, because he's thinking in his head, gosh, maybe I did a whole interview saying that and I didn't know it. That's what I'm saying. Guys, come on, use your brain here. I don't mean to be rude about it, but use your brain. Come on. Yeah, no, obviously it's real. Or he would have said, I didn't say that, that's a fake. Right? We do have to worry about fake videos in the future, but no, he's a nut job. He's a nut job and he's a liar. But he does, he every time he gets called out and stuff, that's not true. Dude. No, the guy's a knucklehead. He's crazy. But he's out of his mind. The funny part that I like is, though, that Republicans like him. He's such a big liberal on everything else but crazy-ass vaccines. He's a liberal on everything else. People would hate him. On climate change, the Republicans would hate this guy. It's just really, Oh, why? Is it February? Are you, the map's over there, Callum. I'm not going to get it today. The map's on the other side. Read about the explosion in Russia today at a weapons factory. No. What was that about? Proof of life? It's all the way in the corner. What blew up in Russia today? I did not see, actually. I saw that there was possibly a Ukrainian attack on Belgorod across the border, but I did not see if anything actually happened as a result of it. Anybody or not? Oops. Who knows? Sorry, just looking at stuff here. Okay, and we're back. George Soros has Taylor Swift records rights? I doubt that. I seriously doubt that's possible. Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, as I said, the Ukrainians attacked across the border in Belgorod. So it's possible. It's possible that that's what Belgorod is Ukraine. I know. What do you say? Belgorod, I'm going to guess. Do you pronounce it with a huh? I'm going to guess, Ukrainians. Has Ukraine attacked further into Russia? I mean, not, well, it depends what you mean by that. Bilhorod. There you go. Thanks, Scott. It depends what you mean by that, because Ukraine has occasionally attacked deep in Russia. We know they've attacked Moscow. They've attacked that military base up by the Estonian border. Well, we know that the Ukrainians had a hand in blowing up several, a bridge and a tunnel for trains in eastern Russia. So we know, they've attacked deep in Russia. So I'm not sure what your question means. You mean, was there anything new? I'm not sure. It was a factory that produced missiles. They can carry nuclear. Oh, get out. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's good. I did not hear that. Oh, that's nice. Good. Very interesting. Okay, no problem, Red. I see what you, okay. You were asking in general. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I thought maybe you were asking something specifically. Thank you, Triff, for the heart. Well, actually, Paulie, that doesn't make sense either. Yeah. Is he leaving? Yeah, Paulie left. Yeah. I'm just looking here. Ukraine. See if anybody's mentioning anything else with like recent blasts in my Ukraine news Twitter feed. Who was that? Thank you, Carla. Let me see here. Hang on. Oh, God. Video of the Republican Speaker of the House of Representatives saying that God told him very clearly. He talks to God a lot, and God answers him. This is one of the famous quotes out there is something like, you're crazy when you talk to God and God answers, and you hear his voice. God talks to him a lot. And it's not one of these where, I pray and I feel like God is telling me what to do kind of thing. God talks to him. It's really screwed up. Well, his latest thing is God told him very clearly to prepare to become a Moses who will lead the nation through a Red Sea moment. What do you do with these people? No, but this is where I'm saying you're dealing with crazy people. I'm sorry, but that whole thing, I'm fine with being religious, but these guys literally think they own God, and God, I remember him talking before. Oh, he talked before. I saw an interview with him a while ago when he became speaker a couple months ago. And he talked about how God had the whole thing planned out. He prayed to God. He wasn't sure he wanted to run. He talked to God and God told him you should definitely run. But God told him, don't run right now. Wait 3 weeks. And if you wait 3 weeks, other people will try to run and they'll fail. And then once they're done, then you run and then you'll become Speaker of the House. And literally God told him all of that. And I'm like, really? God, it's one thing to say, I prayed about whether I should be speaker and for God to give me a sign. God gave you an entire 3-week election strategy? Seriously? No, these people are crazy. He literally said that. He told me to go 3 weeks, but not all 3, to wait 3 weeks and there'd be 2 or 3 people who would come up and they'd try to become speaker, but they'd fail. And by the time it got to me, people would be tired and then they'd pick me. Sure they did. Yeah, because God can't come up with anybody better. Give me a break. Yep, still looking here. All right, let's see. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, Kyiv Independent. Kyiv Independent has it. From Russian media, let me read this. A massive explosion occurred at the Votkinsk weapons factory in Russia's Udmurtia region, wherever that is. The evening of February 7th, the Votnik machine building plant produces nuclear weapons components and ballistic missiles. The detonation caused a large fire to break out. Thank you, Jay Ches. A large fire to break out at the factory. Residents reportedly shared videos of the fire on social media. The Russian state media said the dispatch service claimed the explosion resulted from a scheduled test of rocket engines. Yeah, did the rocket engine set the building on fire? Lies about 50 kilometers from the regional capital of Izhevsk. I've never heard of any of these things. Where is this place? Votkinsk. All right, now I got to pull up Votkinsk on my map because now I'm curious. Votkinsk. What's a good word in Russian though? Votkak. Votkak. What does votkak mean again? I remember it was like a response. Votkak. Is it like, it's something like what? But it's one, what does it mean exactly? Help me, you Ukrainian speakers. I doubt you say it in Ukrainian, but it's in Russian. Votkak. Help me out. So we said Votkinsk. Let me pull this up. Google Maps. Hang on. Get my glasses on. Come on. Somebody's got to have the translation for me of Votkak, just because I'm wondering. Izhevsk is the exact location. Let me pull up Izhevsk, which is another town I've never heard of. Izhevsk, Russia. The map will come back. He's kind of resting. He had a very peaceful January without the liquor. Wow. It's pretty far out there. Yeah. North of Kazakhstan. It's pretty far out there. It's certainly, I don't know how many, actually 1,000 miles. Yeah. That's pretty far. 2,000 kilometers. Yeah. I was thinking 1,000 miles. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty far. Okay. Wow, that's pretty good of them. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay. Interesting. Yes, I'm holding the map hostage like the January 6th insurrectionists. They're my hostages. Good. The Ukrainians blew it up. Good for them. So, I mean, Yael, I don't know all the details. I mean, there's been a back and forth deal that I think the Qataris and somebody else, Bahrain maybe, put forth for the hostages and everything else with Gaza and Israel. And Hamas proposed something to Israel. Israel just turned it down today. The problem is that Hamas keeps proposing, which makes sense for Hamas and not for Israel, keeps proposing that basically they end the war. Like, okay, we released all the hostages we're holding. You released thousands of Palestinians from jail, and we'll just call it even. No more war. And Israel's like, you killed more Jews since the Holocaust. You did the biggest attack on Israel, on Jews, since the Holocaust. And you think we're going to sit there and go, okay, you can just stay in power. It's okay. Like, it is not a politically viable proposal. There's no way. I can't say, as controversial as Netanyahu is in Israel, I wouldn't be happy with it. I wouldn't be happy with it. If it was my government, I'd be like, you're going to leave the guys in power who just committed September 11th, and you're leaving them on our border so they can just cross the border and do it again? I'm not convinced that that's politically reasonable. And they're just going to do it again. I mean, here's the other problem. By the way, any of you who are anti-Israel or whatever, pro-Palestinian, whatever you want to call it, depending on your views, you need to worry about this too. This is exactly like resolving the war in Ukraine. If a bad deal is struck that leaves Hamas in power, what do you think Israel's going to do if 6 months from now, let's say the deal's reached, hostages are released, Israel releases thousands of Palestinian prisoners, and the war ends? Hamas is going to do this again. What happens in 6 months when Hamas crosses into Israel and does it again? Israel's coming back and they're blowing the F out of Gaza all over again. I mean, do you this does not solve the problem. That's the thing. This does not solve the problem. I mean, but I'm saying you've got to think of what's going to, it's a temporary truce. This is, like I said, the Ukraine thing. It's like a truce in Ukraine. What does that get you? Putin's coming back for more no matter what. The war is going to happen again in Ukraine. It's gonna. Putin's going to come for the whole thing. Oh, you didn't do it right. 0 votes. You didn't do that poll right. There's 0 votes. I guess that means nobody's interested. Anyway. Well, the world, I don't particularly care what the world thinks, to be honest, Medius. I mean, as far as that goes, the world, I would say this in life in general. I've learned as I've gotten older that the majority might have some good opinions on Wikipedia. The majority online does not have good opinions. Doesn't. We know that. The majority in general, I trust experts. I don't trust the majority on pretty much anything. And most of the world doesn't like Israel. I don't particularly care. Most of the world also doesn't like not most. A lot of the world, more of the world likes the U.S. than they do Russia. But a lot of the world doesn't like my country either. I've never really particularly cared. because they just don't like us. They hate Jews. They don't like us. I'm like, and the Arab world, the Iraqis called us American devils today. I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I all it does is reinforce that I don't think these guys can be our allies. You know what I mean? I just don't care. So yeah, the world's allied against Israel and America. So what else is new? The world's hated Israel for 75 years. They've hated Jews for 3,000 years. This is not new. No, again, you can be, which somebody wrote earlier, and he's not wrong, you can be pro-Palestinian and not anti-Israel, and I agree. Too many of the Palestinian activists are Jew haters, but a lot of you who are concerned about Palestine are not, and I accept that. But the opposite is not true. That too many of the pro-Palestinian types, or it's not even forget Palestinian. This has been going on long before Gaza. Too many of the anti-Israel people frickin' hate Jews, and they frickin' hate Israel. It is not some policy disagreement for them. For you guys, since Hamas, fair enough in general, but for a lot of these guys, they frickin' hate Jews, and the world in general does, and they hate Israel as a result. So it's like, whatever. Vodka is an Udmurtian word, really? Not Russian? Oh, vodka. But vodka with the T. That was the town. Yeah. Yep. Well, Hamas, I don't know about it being created by Israel, but we know the Palestinians voted for it. My God, it's the elected government that they elected. So again, show a little agency is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Palestinians need to take a little bit of responsibility for their own lives. 75 years as refugees? Come on. I really do. I think there's part of this too. They've gotten a bad lot in life. The Arabs couldn't care less about the Palestinians, but the Palestinians themselves, 75 years as refugees, nobody's a refugee for 75 years. Like, move on already. I really mean it. Nobody's a refugee. It's just ridiculous at this point. And frankly, they've been offered, again, they get a shitty lot in life, but they were offered a homeland 3 times. My God. Like, take the freaking homeland. I just think sometimes I wonder if people just want to keep, thank you, Napoleon, if people just like being unhappy or whatever, it's just ridiculous. Thank you, Joe. What else, guys? A few more things and then we'll go. Oh, la, 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 la. What else? Someone was close. Yeah, exactly, Chris. Someone was smoking close to the warheads in Russia again. Exactly. What else? Thank you, Jennifer, for the finger. Any other news, guys? Thank you, Timothy. I'm just looking here. Anything else? Yeah. President of Serbia has just accused the West of waging a hybrid war against Serbia. Serbia is another country that really needs to take a little agency and decide what it wants to be when it grows up. Because at this point, it's like Turkey and Hungary. If you really, or I should say Hungary at least, if you really want to be, part of Russia, then go for it. But I think your future is in Europe and your future isn't in Russia. Stop being crazy. Yeah, the Russians were upset because they think America's moving some nukes. Mom is well, thank you. They think America's moving nukes to Britain, although Britain's already got nukes, so it's not like it's, not like it's like a big shockaroo, Oh, sorry. I woke up I got to bed late. I woke up on time, but I got to bed a little late last night. Who was that? Thank you, Christine. Yep, so the massive explosion at a Russian weapons plant. That's hilarious. Oh, I forgot the other Tucker thing I was going to tell you, Tucker Carlson. So Tucker, in his video, he does telling the world about his interview with Vladimir Putin and why it's so important. He says, why is it that no other journalist has interviewed Putin? They don't want to interview him. They don't want you to hear his voice. Putin's spokesman came out. Thank you, Nikki. Putin's spokesman came out and slapped him down and said, Mr. Carlson would have no way of knowing how many people have or have not asked to interview Vladimir Putin. He gets requests all the time from foreign journalists. He just, hasn't picked one in a while that he wanted to talk to. It was like, oh my God. This is what I'm saying. The guy just lies. He lies. This is the mendacity. He tries to present it as though poor Vladimir Putin, dictator that he is, no one ever gets to America. And people literally were telling me on TikTok today, It's true, Americans never get to hear from Vladimir Putin. I watch videos of Vladimir Putin every day online. The news about him is everywhere. The American press reports on everything Putin says, right? But we never get to hear from Vladimir Putin. And it's because no journalists ever want to, no, but this is what's important, guys. It's because Tucker says no journalists ever want to interview Vladimir Putin. And the Russians were looking at it going, no journalists want to interview the esteemed Vladimir Putin? That's why? I mean, and you did us a favor? Because you're the only one who was willing to lower yourself to interview Vladimir Putin. No, I mean, the slapback from the Russians was hilarious, was absolutely hilarious. Are you asking who is Tucker legitimately, or is that sort of metaphorically? Tucker Carlson is a former top host on Fox News who lost his job because he lied a lot and it cost Fox News almost $1 billion in a lawsuit. And now he's a super top propagandist for Russia. He's a top propagandist for Orban in Hungary. And he just announced yesterday he did an interview with Vladimir Putin that's coming out today or tomorrow, because he thinks Vladimir Putin needs his view put out there on Ukraine, because only the lies are being told about Ukraine from the West. And we need Putin's view, the truth about Ukraine and why Putin had to invade. And that's why Tucker Carlson's doing it. Yeah, Jon Stewart, a famous American comedian but political commentator, went after Tucker Carlson 20 years ago. You should Google it. It's an amazing takedown of him. I think it was at George Washington University. And he's on stage with Tucker and basically tells him, you should be ashamed of yourself. People like you are destroying this country. And it's funny in retrospect, because at the time, I have to say, I remember thinking Jon Stewart was a little too tough even. No, Tucker was always an idiot. But this is back when he was MSNBC or CNN and all that. He was fascism light. He wasn't even fascism at that point. He was just a right winger. He wasn't a fascist at that point. And I remember thinking Stewart was a bit harsh on him. In retrospect, you can Google it. You can probably Google Tucker Carlson, Jon Stewart, Jon, Jon Stewart, Crossfire. And you'll see them on a stage, like 4 of them on a stage, and it's amazing. It is, and Jon Stewart, American political commentator, he's coming back to do a once a week show. What's the TV show, guys? I'm already spacing out. That he had, that is still in existence. It's a political comedy show, very good. But Stewart was very popular. No. What's the name of the TV show? The Stewart's TV show, Daily Show, The Daily Show. Friends of mine in France used to watch the videos. They were like, well, this guy's really good. I was like, oh, he's great. But yeah, let me just pull this up to show you. I won't play the video because TikTok gets upset. I mean, I should say YouTube. Jon Stewart, Tucker Carlson, Daily Show, and I'm trying to think which one is it though? You know what? It comes up, a lot of different videos come up though. A lot of different videos come up. Yeah, Hollywood Reporter has that. It's the one he called him a dick. The then Daily Show host appeared on the now defunct CNN show where he referred to the hosts as partisan hacks and blamed the show for being divisive by reducing arguments to two-sided political theater. He then called Tucker a dick. Yeah, you've got to... this is what you'll be looking for. Jon Stewart sitting there with kind of a sweater and a T-shirt. That's the video you're looking for. It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. Like I said, I thought it was a little harsh at the time. In retrospect, he was prescient, really. He was right in retrospect. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Oops. My phone... There you are. Anyway, beep-a-doop. I think we're going to wrap up, guys. I don't think we're going to do... We should do a Discord, maybe tomorrow. I'm enjoying Baldur's Gate a lot on Xbox because I've finally gotten good at it. So, now I can play. Now it's fun. I'm able to do stuff, Dinner. Yeah, I had pizza earlier. I did make a very nice... banana. I've got a wonderful banana bread recipe with chocolate chips that I make healthier. So it's got half whole wheat flour. I use olive oil instead of oil or butter. The game is Baldur's Gate 3. And I also put some chia inside. It's very good. Sasha's, well, she's asleep. Oh, no, she's not here. I thought she was underneath. She's somewhere else. Who knows where she is? She may be on the couch. It's hard to say, my dog. I thought of streaming it at some point. I wasn't sure if it's just too geeky or too weird having like hundreds of people watching me play a game. I just wasn't sure if I'd be like too like ah. I've worked in the news. I mean, yes and no. Yes and no. I wrote for The Economist for a while. I only did a few articles for them, writing. I used to go on TV a lot, but I never was paid. So I didn't work for anybody. But I used to go on CNN and MSNBC and some of the other networks a lot. Fox News, actually, a lot back in the day. But was never paid, so I didn't work for them. So I must sell the dog. Yes, I do not sell the dog. The dog does not sell. Also, she's 14, so she's a little old. You want a younger dog. Most of the guests on TV are not paid. People think you're paid. The only people who are paid are the contributors. This is what I've been doing for a living. Yeah. That's why I ask you for gifts, Yael. This is what I do. Oh, this is what I've been doing. I've been doing this kind of thing for years. For years, I've been doing things with the internet and activism and politics and journalism and everything else. So that's, yeah. LVT says Sasha is a Russian name. Sasha is a Ukrainian name. You mean LVT? No, I used to say she was part Russian. Now I say she's part Ukrainian. So thank you, Booty. I have only worked in law firms while I was in law school, and I did not like it. I had 2 different law jobs I did not like, and I said to myself, I am never gonna practice law, and I never did because I hated it. I just hated it. So Myst, oh my God. I remember playing Myst and I got stuck at the very beginning. I couldn't figure out what the hell to do. That game frustrated me so much. My education? Okay, if you want, you can find the link in my profile on TikTok, or any of you, aravosis.com will take you there. But on TikTok, look for the URL, the link in my profile, the Linktree link. Click it, and my whatchamacallit is there. I'm tired tonight. The job site, LinkedIn, is there. But I have a law degree and a master's in foreign service from Georgetown. I don't regret my law degree. The only thing is, in America, law degrees are very expensive. And it's 3 years after university. So you do 4 years of university, then 3 years. It's a lot of money, and I'm not convinced it's worth it. Because after the first, I remember in my undergraduate, there was a article in the school paper, and the person who wrote the article said, everyone should go to law school for 1 year. And he said it just wasn't worth it for 3, but it was really good. I will never forget that. I was, 20 at the time, 21, and I will never forget that article because he was so right. For 1 year, it's an amazing education. For 3 years, it's a waste of time. By the second year, all the courses are like the same. And by the third year, literally, you almost stop going to class because it's the same course over and over and over again. I've never had that experience in my life. Graduate school was not that way. Undergraduate was not that way. Law school, it was the same freaking course again. A total waste of time. Thank you, Jeremy. There is no way I would say 1 year, maybe a year and a half for American law schools. 3 years is stupid. So what do you do? Tulakivi's good. What did he say? What did he say? Tulakivi's one of the good ones, but I think he's Estonian, or he or she, so you never know. You never know. Oh, Helsinki Times, a military analyst? Okay. So I don't regret the degree. It's been nice having it. It's been good for my career, so to speak, but it was a lot of money. Had I not spent that money, I would have bought a home a lot, an apartment a lot faster. I mean, we don't get into this now, but yeah. Anyway, so in a lawsuit in high school. Well, but this is what Andy is saying. Education's so different now because things change so rapidly. By the time you graduate, stuff has changed. Hey, I studied the Soviet Union in Georgetown's Foreign Service School. I spent a lot of time studying about the Soviets. I graduated in 1989. What do you think the Soviets did that year? They exploded. Eastern Europe exploded. 2 years later, the Soviet Union was gone. So things do change. But that's why it depends what you're studying. But that's why you get a degree that hopefully is making you smarter overall and not just teaching you facts, right? Engineering, maybe you don't have a choice, right? But for other degrees, hopefully it's expanding your mind. And yeah, I studied in France for a year, which I loved. I love France. I don't know. For the banana bread, 2 to 3 tablespoons chia maybe. Because the thing with chia is I used to use a smaller amount, and then I was reading how much people use in recipes, and you don't get much out of it. But, it's not like it's giving you a ton of chia. You also want to be careful because if you don't eat chia at all, it could give you like indigestion or gas or whatever. But I don't know, maybe to start with, put a tablespoon in and see how you like it. But eventually, I put probably 3 tablespoons in a loaf. And it's chia is very nice though, because chia is, and you don't have, no, chia, I will warn you though, the thing with chia you got to be careful is it soaks up water. So you run the risk of it making your recipes almost dry or mushy too. Like it can mess. I noticed that it's not a problem with my banana bread, but but I like chia because it's like flax you've got to grind. Chia you don't have to grind because chia, it's either a nice chewable seed, it's just a nice seed, or it gets gooey and then cooks away. So, extra banana. The problem is but I try it. I would try it first. Because the thing with chia is I worry that it could even make it moister because it's holding onto the water. Well, I've used it before and it works out fine. So I don't know. We like talking cooking. I would literally start with a tablespoon, which won't make much of a difference. And then if you like it, the next one, try 2 tablespoons. But I do 3 at this point and it's fine, And at least it makes me feel like the recipe's healthier because at least now it's olive oil. It's half, and I use white whole wheat, by the way, way better than whole wheat, but only King Arthur. I don't know if anybody else makes white whole wheat. Only King Arthur does. And it's great because it doesn't taste like whole wheat. The chia does correct, but I also don't soak it in liquid first. I literally just throw the chia in, mix it, and then put it in the oven. So, what was Russia like when I was there? I've never been to Ukraine. I've been to Russia and the Soviet Union. Both of those were, the Russian Far East, my friend Marion, who joins us a lot, we went to the Russian Far East together to Kamchatka, which anybody who plays Risk knows Kamchatka, to Petropavlovsk. And that was fascinating. That was absolutely fascinating. The Soviet Union, I went in 1984. When I was studying in Paris. The French, God bless them, have their travel agents have cheap trips all over the world, and it was something like $350. I've been to Moscow. Yep, something like $350 or something to fly 10 days, everything included, to Moscow and Leningrad. For $350 for 10 days, hotels, accommodations, plane. I was like, this guide. Fascinating. It was a dictatorship. It was obviously a dictatorship. Very scary. Standard of living was kind of sad. Everybody's apartment looked like, all the apartments on the outside looked like we would consider them projects here in America, like where poor people live in big bad cities. But people were very nice, though I guess anybody could be nice. Sashko. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Well, but do you say Sashko or do you say Sashka or something like that? Like, how do you pronounce the O? Thanks, Mama. not my mama, but Mama. RT. What do you think I think of RT News Channel, Debbie? Come on. That's a softball question. You know that. But anyway, yeah, mother and grandmother visited Soviet Union, 1982. Yeah, it was a fascinating trip. Sashko. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. It was a fascinating trip. And like I said, the Russian Far East was very interesting too because it was so in the middle of nowhere. The UN, don't do it. But Russia was it. We had. I'll leave you one more. Soviet Union stories. I have a million of them, but the one Soviet Union story, which we'd been warned about this, and it was true, because back then there was no internet. Right, we're talking 1984. So you read books about the Soviet Union, right? You read articles in the paper, but there was nowhere to get information, right? Back then, you would stay at tourist hotels, Intourist or whatever these different names were. And they were hotels for tourists. But they were, of course, Western tourists. And presumably the rooms were all bugged. We had just assumed this was in Moscow, back in the Soviet Union. We assumed the rooms were bugged. We were told to assume it was bugged. And there was a box I remember they were like dormitory rooms. And we had roommates and stuff, but other people in our tour group. And there was a box on each of our, maybe one box on the desk in the room. It was this big, a big wire coming out of it. And it was attached to the wall. It was wired into the wall. It wasn't plugged into the wall. It was wired into the wall. And the box had music and stuff coming out of it. And you could turn the volume level to high or low, but you couldn't turn it off. And it was the craziest thing. And we had been warned that this was going to happen. You literally can't turn the box off. So 24 hours a day, it's like spitting out this subliminal propaganda or whatever the hell it was. It was the creepiest, weirdest thing. Soviet Union, whoosh. And the other thing they told us coming into the country, I'll pretend that this is my passport. Coming into the country, they warned us. They said the Russians, Border Patrol is going to be very tough with you, being American and everything else, but in general. But what they do is they will look at your passport 3 times and look you in the eye 3 times to try to get you to break. And, don't worry. It's a thing they do. Don't worry about it. Okay. And the guy takes my passport, and I kid you not, straight face, and it's a military guy, of course. And he's looking down and then looks up. But he's looking in your eyes, and I'm talking 10, 15 seconds of him looking in your eye. And then he's looking at the passport, and another 10, 15 seconds, look at the passport. Looks up again, 10 or 15 seconds, and just sitting there. And then down again. And then by the 3rd time he looked at me, I started laughing. But I started laughing. It was like this guy is staring in my eyes. And the worst part is looking and not responding for 15 seconds. How do you do that without laughing? So I laughed. Nothing happened, but it was the funniest. You can imagine some Russian 15 seconds of a border guard looking in your eye and you're going, dude, what are you doing? Oh no, I wasn't scared because also it was 1984. Now I'd be worried. But back then, they're not going to touch us. It was the height of the Cold War with Ronald Reagan and everything else, but they weren't going to touch. I know I should have leaned forward and kissed him. They wouldn't touch us back then. Now the Russians would kidnap you. It's their government policy to kidnap Americans, which they've done. But back then, no, there was no risk at all. They were they wanted Americans to think it was great and everything else. So, it's funny you say that now because you're right. Now I'd be worried. But back then, they didn't do this kind of stuff back then. So, coffee table book that somebody in their tour group brought. Oh yeah, they would, there was a book. Thank you, Jeff. There was a book somebody had that they confiscated. I don't remember what it was. I remember somebody had a book that was in their suitcase that they were reading and they confiscated it. But of course, they could have been confiscating it to steal it, or it was Russia's a dictatorship. But it was quite the little dictatorship. It still is now, but during the Soviet years, quite the little dictatorship. Yeah, scary thing. Who was the Soviet leader is a difficult question because I was in the middle of them all dying. At this point, 2 of them had already died. So I want to say Brezhnev had died and Andropov maybe had just died. It was February of 2024. So I think Andropov had literally just died and they didn't have a new leader yet. If I'm not crazy, I want to say February, something like that, of 2024. But the problem is your memory when you think back that far. Sometimes you wonder, do I really remember? Not 2024. It should be 1984. But I seem to remember. I think Andropov was 80. Google it and see for me, folks. It was 1984, not the year when they were all dying in a row. And I think they were between number 2 and 3 at this point. It was Chernenko to Andropov, or Andropov died and Chernenko was coming next, maybe, I think. See, now I want to know. Hold on. Now I've got to pull this up. Nope, there was no Gorbachev yet. Gorbachev was not. It was a couple years before Gorbachev. I'm just going to pull it up. Soviet leaders. Soviet leaders. Ranked. I don't really need them ranked. I just want to see them in a row. List of leaders. It was all the grumpy old men. Yes. Hang on here. There weren't that many. Yeah. Yep. Andropov died February 9th of 1984. And it says Chernyenko, I love this. Or, excuse me, not died. Andropov was leader until February 9th of 84, and Chernyenko was leader as of February 9th. That's a bunch of bull, because he was dead. Like, I was there when they were dead, and there wasn't anybody new yet. I remember that. Yeah. Funny. Yep. So it was that middle of February, and I mean, it was, in retrospect, it was a little crazy. Moscow and Leningrad were so freaking cold. I mean, middle of February. Oh my God. You know, amazing. I know. Well, I don't know though officially. Maybe they're right officially how they put it there. You know, I don't know. In any case, 40 years ago tomorrow. I guess. Oh, that's right. It is. Or yeah. It was 40 years ago that I was there. No. Yes. 84. Wow. I'm old. Wow. Ham and Egger. Thanks, Legion. Although I don't know which way that cuts. I appreciate that though, because he's saying, I just would have thought you were some guy doing this. But of course that also cuts like, I watched your show and never really thought you were an actual expert. I know what you mean though. Thank you. But it is kind of funny. That made me laugh. Oh my God. Hey, Ian. I know our group trip, we still have to do the group trip thing. We'll have to see, but we will have to see about that. Woo, 58 in May. Well, let us know. We'll sing you happy birthday. All right, guys. All right, I'm going to go. It's now, we've been doing this an hour and a half. All right. No, it's okay. Don't worry. Nice to have you here, Legion. I appreciate that. We've talked about Tucker. I don't mean to be rude, but like we've done several segments on him this show already. I've got a couple videos up that have been quite popular with the trolls talking about, Scotland. Scotland is already on my list. I've only been to Edinburgh, I told you, but I want to go and have you take me somewhere where people speak Scottish where I can't even understand the English. That's what I want. Your accent's good, but I want better. I want literally going, huh? I've never been to the Baltic states at all. Been dying to go to Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, for sure. That I've always wanted to do. But Glasgow is what I've heard, exactly, or Glasgow. But yes. No, I haven't traveled in several, I think since my UN debacle, I haven't really traveled, and I need to travel again. I really do. Nobody likes Latvia. Said like an Estonian. Nobody likes Latvia. That should be a t-shirt. Nobody likes Latvia. Or it's a television show. It just sounds so funny, like that anybody has strong opinions about Latvia. It makes me laugh in that sense. But no, Poland, I mean, lots of things. Misha, born in the Soviet Union in Yakutsk. That's interesting. That's pretty far out there. Interesting. So Misha over on YouTube was saying, born in the Soviet Union in Yakutsk. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway. All right, guys. I'm gonna go. Let's we'll come back tomorrow. We'll say this is always fun when we get to the like hanging out part. I find that much more fun than the trolly political part. You know, but this part is fun. But yes, I'm gonna go put my game back on, take my jacket off, and then cut myself a piece of banana bread and chill out in front of the Xbox. So, all right, thanks, Alexander. Fun, and I appreciate you joining us from. You are over in Ukraine, aren't you? I keep forgetting because you're here, but you're here like when it's really late. I assume you're in Ukraine, aren't you? Sorry, I'm waiting for Alexander to answer, and then I'll go. Night, Deb. Oops. Beep, 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 beep. There's always a little bit of a delay when I play Baldur's Gate 3, which I've been very much enjoying. Really getting into it. I just hated the job. The job was boring. The problem with law, you are in Ukraine, that's what I thought. The problem with law jobs for me was, I did not like how so much of law is doing legal research, and so much of legal research is trying to look up cases to to like prove what you're working on or to find out the answer of what you're working on. And there was never an answer. There was never an answer. And I hated it because there was never a case that specifically applied. Some people enjoy that because they feel like, oh, I can craft a new blah, blah, blah. To me, it was like proving a negative. I kept worrying, am I doing enough research? Am I not finding something because there isn't anything? Or am I not finding something because I'm really bad at it? I just hated it. But yeah, I just didn't enjoy law. And, you know, I mean, what do you do? I enjoy what I did. You know, I mean, I've done cool stuff. Well, I mean, the thing is, the law degree helped me get jobs. The law degree helped me get I got my first job as an advisor in the U.S. Senate for a senator because I had a law degree. He wanted lawyers. He wanted a lawyer with a foreign policy background. So there you go. So I wouldn't have gotten my job in the Senate. And I mean, you know, in principle, that got everything else going. You know, yeah, I know I may be Tulakivi. You're right. That may be an interview. It's probably Sputnik. Sputnik went after me once. They were not very happy. That's one of the Russian propaganda organ in English got very upset at something I wrote once, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. You know, go back to locking your balcony window. Anyway, all right, guys, have a good night. We'll talk to you later. All right. See you tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. Be there, be square. All right.